Has this ever happened to you? You hear someone speaking in a language that you don't speak, that you don't understand, but you say something like, sounds like Russian, or it sounds like Portuguese. Have you ever stopped to think about what your brain was hearing that made you say that? It's actually very similar to what happens when you hear a song in a noisy background, or a song that's being played really far away. You might not hear and understand the words, but you recognize the tune, the melody, and therefore you're able to recognize the song. It's very similar with languages. Languages have their own melody, their own tune, and rhythm is a very important part of that melody. That is what your brain is latching onto when you say, it sounds like Russian or it sounds like Portuguese. But why should you care about this? Well, first, because you're a very intellectually curious person, and it is fascinating to learn about these hidden aspects of language that you've never really considered before. And second, if you're learning a second language, be it English, be it anything else, it is really important for you to understand and use rhythm correctly in that second language if you want to become proficient in it, if you want to sound fluent in it. No matter how perfect your grammar is, no matter how impeccable your vocabulary is, you will not sound proficient. You will not sound fluent. Your language will not sound natural. And worse, people might have trouble understanding what you're saying. Rhythm is like a thread that weaves the words together in a language. It is an overarching trait of any language. It helps the listener predict what's coming next. And this allows for more efficient processing of language. If the pattern for a given language is predictable and expected, our ears receive signals through the rhythm to decide which parts are salient, which parts are important, and which parts not so much. If you're using an incorrect rhythm, then you're taking away those acoustic signals, those acoustic cues that are helping our ears tune in to the important pieces of the message. And therefore, your message will be harder to understand. It's not like people won't be able to understand you, but it's going to sound off, and their brain is going to have to spend a few extra cycles processing what is being said. Therefore, let me say it one more time. If you want to sound natural, fluent, proficient in a given language, you have to catch its rhythm. But what exactly am I referring to when I say rhythm? The rhythm is like the percussion element of music. It is the beat to which words dance. The beats are created by stress patterns that are used in a specific language. Now, we're not talking about word stress right now. We're talking about stress across an utterance, the stress pattern and the stress distribution across an utterance. And an utterance is essentially what you say in one continuous stream, and it is bound on both sides by pauses. There are a lot of different languages in the world. Does this mean each language has its own rhythm? Thankfully, no. Linguists have defined 3 broad rhythms that most languages utilize. This is not to say that each language exclusively and without any exceptions uses that one rhythm all the time, no exceptions. But it does mean that predominantly, overwhelmingly, a given language uses one of the 3 rhythms. And therefore, that rhythm is attributed to that language. In today's video, I'm going to introduce all 3 rhythms, and then we're going to focus exclusively on the rhythm that English uses. Hello, language lovers and language learners and intellectually curious folks everywhere. My name is Bakul Soman, and welcome back to my channel. If you have been enjoying my videos, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Okay, so what are these 3 different types of rhythms that languages use? The first one is called syllable-timed. In a syllable-timed language, each syllable lasts the same amount of time. There isn't really a concept of stressed syllables and unstressed syllables. There isn't really a concept of reduced vowels. Each syllable gets the same amount, it gets the same attention. The rhythm of a syllable-timed language sounds like a machine gun firing. Here are some examples of languages that are syllable-timed. French, Italian, Spanish, Brazilian Portuguese, Icelandic, Cantonese, Armenian, Korean, Hindi, Marathi, Bengali, Gujarati. In a syllable-timed language, because each syllable gets the same attention, gets the same amount of time, the length of an utterance is directly proportional to the number of syllables the utterance has, right? This makes sense. If an utterance has 4 syllables, it is going to be half as long as an utterance that has 8 syllables in it, because there are 4 more syllables and each syllable gets the same amount of time. The second rhythm is called mora-timed. Mora is a unit that can be smaller than a syllable. So a syllable can have multiple moras, but a mora can have at most 1 syllable. Sometimes it can have less than a syllable. And each mora has the same duration. Not each syllable like in syllable-timed languages, but each mora has the same duration. Japanese is the language that comes up most often when mora-timed languages are discussed. But there are some other languages like Tamil, Telugu, Gilbertese, Slovak, Ganda. Rhythm number 3, stress-timed languages. This is the rhythm that English uses. So the rest of the video, we will be talking about stress timing. In stress-timed languages, there is a concept of stressed syllables and unstressed syllables. So each syllable does not get the same treatment. Some syllables are stressed. That means they have a higher pitch, they are louder, they last longer, and they have a stronger vowel sound. And others are reduced or unstressed. This contrast is really important. Reducing some syllables makes the stressed syllables pop out even more. It is like highlighting, right? When you are reading through a passage and you highlight the important words, the highlighted bits stand out because the rest of the words don't have highlighting. They recede into the background. Something very similar is happening in stress-timed languages. Some words pop out, some syllables pop out because they have stress, and the other ones recede into the background because they are reduced. They are squished and kind of flattened out, so they don't stand out as much, and they actually help the stressed syllables stand out more. The rhythm of these types of languages sounds like Morse code. Morse code uses a system of dots and dashes. The dots tend to be shorter and the dashes are longer. So the dashes would be the equivalent of the stressed syllables, and the dots would be the equivalent of the reduced or the unstressed syllables. Here are some languages that are stress-timed. English, of course, we talked about that. Thai, Lao, German, Russian, European Portuguese, Swedish, Norwegian, Dutch, and Iranian Persian. So unlike in syllable-timed languages, there isn't a one-to-one correspondence between the number of syllables in an utterance and the length of the utterance. Let me give you an example. I'm going to show you some sentences, and each sentence is going to have the number of syllables next to it. Okay? Listen to the duration of each utterance. Men read books. The men read books. The men read the books. The men will read the books. The men will be reading the books. We went from 3 syllables to 8 syllables, but the length of the utterance was about the same. That is because the words that were stressed in all of those sentences were the same. The same 3 words were stressed. And in that case, the distance between the stressed syllables is going to be the same. Okay, so whether that sentence has 3 syllables or 8 syllables, if it has the same stressed words, then everything else in between has to be squished so that the distance between those stressed syllables stays about the same. Okay, so men read books and the men will be reading the books. about the same utterance length. This is a very characteristic feature of stress-timed languages. Let's look at another example. He eats food. He eats the food. He wants to eat the food. He's going to eat the food. We went from 3 syllables to 9 syllables, but the utterance did not take 3 times longer because it's not syllable-timed. We stressed some syllables and we reduced the rest. And remember, the syllables that we stress will follow the word stress patterns that we talked about in the video from last week. If you missed it, make sure you take a look at it. The link is in the description below. So now, on a sentence or an utterance level, what determines which syllables get stressed and which syllables don't get stressed, get reduced? In order to understand that, we need to talk about content words and function words. Content words are nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs, and function words are basically everything else. So it could be articles, pronouns, prepositions, conjunctions. So in stress-timed languages, content words get stressed and function words get reduced. So let's review the 2 longest utterances from our 2 examples from before. He's going to eat the food. What are the content words in this utterance? Going, eat, food. He's going to eat the food. He's going to eat the food. Everything else was reduced because they are function words. Let's look at the second example. The men will be reading the books. What am I stressing? What are the content words? Men reading books. The men will be reading the books. I stressed parts of the content word, right? In the content word, I stressed the syllable that would be stressed according to the word stress pattern, all right? If it is a multisyllabic word. And everything else got reduced. Okay, so now I'm going to give you 3 sentences, and you need to figure out what words are the content words. You need to try saying the sentence, stressing the content words, and reducing the function words, okay? So I'll give you a few minutes, and then we'll review it together. Okay, sentence number 1. We watched a movie and ate popcorn. We watched a movie and ate popcorn. Okay, so we and got reduced. Everything else was a content word. Sentence number 2. The boys sat under a tree and played cards. The boys sat under a tree and played cards. I emphasize boys, sat, tree, played, and cards. Everything else I smushed. I reduced. Sentence number 3. This is the longest one. I was going to go to the store, but decided I didn't have the time if I wanted to be at school by 9. Okay, let's take it one bit at a time. I was going to go to the store. Going and store got stressed. Everything else got reduced. But decided I didn't have the time. Decided got stressed. I didn't got stressed. Have the reduced. Time stressed, but decided I didn't have the time if I wanted to be at school by 9. If I wanted got stressed, to be at reduced, school got stressed by 9. 9 got stressed. Okay, listen again. I was going to go to the store, but decided I didn't have the time if I wanted to be at school by 9. I hope you were able to figure out the content words versus the function words, and you are able to say the sentence using the correct stress pattern. So here's a quick review of what we discussed today. We discussed the 3 broad rhythms that languages use: syllable-timed, mora-timed, and stress-timed. English is a stress-timed language, has a concept of stressed versus unstressed syllables. Utterances have content words and function words. We stress content words and we reduce function words. And if two sentences have the same content words, then the distance, the amount of time it takes for you to get from one content word to the next is going to be the same across those two sentences, even if one sentence might have more syllables than the other. All right, I hope you found this video informative and useful. I hope you are able to look at the rhythm that you're using when you speak English. If you are enjoying my videos, if you are finding them helpful, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It means a lot to me. Thank you as always for watching, and I will see you next week.